31, 12,621 verses left. We're about halfway through Isaiah, and chapter 29 begins with some very stern words for the Little Mermaid. No, that can't be right. I can't find a crab anywhere. There's some pretty challenging words in chapter 29 about anybody who thinks they believe in God. He basically says that people say all kinds of stuff about God, but they don't really care in their heart whether he's real or not. And the difficult thing is that when these guys are presented with the truth about God, they just say, nah, just tell us what we want to hear. We don't want to know about scary stuff. But it's not just scary stuff that he's got for them. He wants to give them quietness and rest and trust after they turn back to him. But it actually says in chapter 30 that they're having none of it. It's kind of strange because most of us would do almost anything for a bit of quietness and rest. Chapter 31 is all about relying on God in times of war rather than Egypt, and there's a prediction that the Assyrians will fall by the sword, but not a sword of mortal men. Man, this is like something out of Lord of the Rings. In chapter 32 there's another prediction about a king who will reign in righteousness, and the result of that will be that God's Spirit will be poured out and people will be able to live in peace and in quietness and confidence forever. Then it goes on to tell us in chapter 33 that the fear of the Lord is the key to getting this kind of a life. There does seem to be throughout this section loads of reasons to be scared and loads of reasons to trust him. And there's another great example of this in chapters 34 and 35. There's some terrifying stuff in chapter 34 as it talks about God's sword being bathed in blood as he upholds the cause of his people. But then there's some beautiful stuff in chapter 35 about blind people seeing and those that can't walk leaping around, and everlasting gladness and joy completely overtaking people. It's kind of confusing. Is everything going to be really great or really terrible? In chapters 36 to 37, the prophecy from chapter 31 comes true when Sennacherib's army gets absolutely done over by the angel of the Lord. This is all a rerun from days 28 and 33, but it's all from Isaiah's perspective. The tone of Isaiah really changes in chapter 40 as God promises his people comfort and strength and restoration. In chapter 41, God refers to himself as the first and the last. Now you got to remember that because that's pretty darn important. Tune in tomorrow for an 150-year-old prophecy that flipping comes true.